right, so we're back again with CEO of Cent Finance, a blockchain company, Uzair Qidwai. Welcome back.
Hi, Rob. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So in this video, what we're going to talk about is DAOs, right? Something that you're quite familiar with. Literally, the sign behind you is a product that you guys made. Symmetric is literally a DAO, right? So do you want to explain to us what exactly a DAO is?
Yeah, absolutely. So a DAO stands for, it's an acronym for a Decentralized Autonomous Organization. Now, it's a mouthful when I say it, and I'm sure it's a complicated concept for most people. But essentially, what a DAO allows is for an organization to be governed in a decentralized way. So in a traditional business model, you'll have an executive layer or a management layer, and decision making is typically, a call made by an individual or a group of individuals, thereby centralizing control of the organization. A decentralized autonomous organization leverages software such as blockchain and smart contracts, and it allows for decision making to be democratized. And how it does that is by allowing stakeholders, users, suppliers, and creators of the project to all join let's say a forum style software interface, which is connected to blockchain technology. And decisions are usually made by raising proposals. So for example, with Symmetric, which is a decentralized exchange governed by a DAO, if you wanted to make some sort of operational change, or you wanted to introduce a new product, or you want to launch a new project, you would create a proposal on our DAO, which is hosted on a platform called DAO House. And then that platform would then notify all the users and members of the DAO that this proposal was created by Rob. What are your thoughts? And usually all of this is recorded on the blockchain, so there's full transparency for all DAO members to see. There's a time limit for the proposal to get enough votes to actually be passed. If it fails to meet that threshold, then the proposal is dismissed. If it does reach that threshold, then that operational change or project launch or whatever decision it is that is being made actually passes. And at that point, it becomes an official decision made by the DAO. So essentially, in short, DAO is a way to democratize decision-making within businesses and organizations, and thereby giving stakeholders more of a say in how companies and organizations act. So you're aligning interests for all the stakeholders in a much more clear and transparent way.
Interesting. Okay. It sounds to me kind of like a board of directors kind of thing, almost like a shareholders meeting, right?
Yeah, very similar. Yeah. Very similar to that.
Right. So you're kind of creating. So DAOs, does that include, is there like shares involved in that? Is it like if you have more shares of it, you have more votes, or is it like, is that sort of thing how it works?
Yeah, so DAOs can be customized to suit the needs of any group. For example, with Symmetric DAO, like I mentioned, we use the DAO House platform. How it works is you go in and you show that you own an X amount of tokens or SIM coins, which is our governance token. And then it issues you a proportional amount of decision-making rights on that platform. So your vote will essentially reflect your shareholding or your the amount of governance token that you hold. It's different than equity because it's not tied to cash flows, rather is tied to decision-making purely. And so that's what makes DAOs very unique and a very cool new innovation coming from the blockchain and crypto asset space.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess since it doesn't involve cash flows, it kind of gets around a lot of legal stuff as well with that, right?
Yeah, it could involve cash flows. Like I said, DAOs are highly customizable. Regulation varies from country to country. This week, Wyoming became one of the first states in the United States to become a leader in recognizing DAOs as a valid type of business. And so we're starting to see smaller countries, trying to establish expertise and give these new business models an opportunity to come in and innovate and thrive.
Cool. Sounds very interesting. Definitely a lot of really cool things I can kind of start to imagine to build with this. It's very cool. So what do you think are some of the problems with DAOs, right?
Yeah. Every technology or every solution has a shadow side. So one of the problems that I've seen with DAOs is sometimes it can really slow decision making. It's hard sometimes to get engagement from communities, or there's a wide variation. For certain proposals, you might get a lot of votes and a lot of engagement, but for others, you may not. And then ultimately, it comes down to how decentralized a DAO is. One of the common issues that we've seen is that despite companies saying they're decentralized, you have a group of people that are active and they all know each other and are maybe somehow related professionally or personally, and they control decision making. So the most important thing is if a group of people striving to become a DAO or calling themselves a DAO, that they demonstrate transparency and fairness and then decentralization in their decision making. And I think with that, kind of sometimes comes a loss of efficiency. In a centralized structure, it's easy because whatever I say goes. In a decentralized structure, I would have to get consensus from all of my peers, which makes it sometimes slow and less efficient for trivial decisions.
Makes sense. I've heard people say that about democracy as a whole, right? Like, I mean, if you want to move quickly, don't take votes, right? But if you want to do things well, have a democracy, right? It's like, I've heard this in the context of countries and in companies as well, right? Like if you want to get a decision done, you need like you just need a leader that can just say yes or no, right? And you move fast. Whereas if you want to make sure that you're going in the appropriate direction in the long run, right? You take those votes. So I guess DAOs are more in the latter, right? It's more democratic in nature, right?
Yeah, I think one of the key things to remember is let's not forget, within our lifetimes, you and me, Rob, we lived through the financial crisis, the subprime mortgage crisis, and that was brought about by centralized financial institutions looking out for their interest before their users or before their stakeholders. And so decentralized technologies emerged from the distrust that was created because of those issues that we saw. And so a DAO for a function that has to do with capital, that has to do with finance, does make sense because that's an area that most people care about. And Rob, do you care about your money and who controls it? Do you want full transparency over it?
Yeah. Is that an actual question? I feel like that's a rhetorical question.
And so, if that, whatever your answer may be, at the very least, you want to feel assured that it's safe. And I think decentralization came from that place where people stopped feeling secure with centralized institutions controlling their capital and finances.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's when Bitcoin came about, right? It was like 2008. It was like pretty much in the middle of the financial crisis, right?
Yes.
It makes a lot of sense.
One of the interesting things about Bitcoin was it's actually written on the blockchain. There's a message there from Satoshi citing the newspaper about a bailout that was happening in the UK.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that actually. It's like one of the first transactions ever on the Bitcoin that talks about that, right?
Yes.
It's like a little note on the transaction that will basically never go away now, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, it's cool. That's actually very interesting. So yeah, so okay, so those are some of the downsides. What problems do you think it solves, right? So we understand now what a DAO is, right? It's basically a decentralized organization. You allow people to vote on it. It's kind of like, like shareholders, but decentralized on the blockchain, right? We know that there's some shortcomings to it. We know, of course, slow decision making, that sort of thing can be an issue. But what are the positives of it? Like, what are the things that's going to solve? Like, why do we really want to create DAOs? Why did you create a DAO for that matter, for Symmetric, right? Like, what are the benefits that you guys are getting from that?
Yeah, I think one of the important issues to highlight here is that in any subgroup or in any group of people, there's always going to be the people that are highly influential and then ignored groups or groups that have been overlooked. And with a DAO, it's essentially a mechanism that gives everyone a voice. So every stakeholder that is being affected by a decision an organization is making should get some say, or at least have the option to get a say. And so we created Symmetric as a DAO because we want all of our stakeholders to have the option to become part of decision making. And if they choose not to exercise that option, then that's a choice that they're making. But we don't want to be the ones saying that this group gets to influence decision making and this group does not get to influence decision making. And we want to make sure that there's equity and fairness in decision making. And that's why we created Symmetric as a DAO. And it's new. It's just getting out there, and we hope that it continues to grow and attract more people.
It's cool. Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. If you want something to grow and succeed, give basically like voting rights to people that are actually using it, right? Like, I mean, that makes sense to me, right? It's like it's truly democratic, is what it sounds like to me.
That's what the system is striving to become. We're not there yet, but I'm confident as decentralization grows as a movement, we're already seeing it in areas like art and creatives with NFTs. We're seeing it in finance with cryptocurrencies and crypto assets. And we're starting to see new business models through DAOs with a high level of automation built in and fairness and decentralization. So I think the movement is here, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, definitely. It's very cool. And I think it's really cool that people can use that to talk about Symmetric again, that people could not only trade on your exchange, right, but also have a vote as to how it's going to be run and operated in the future, right? I think that's really cool.
Yeah,
awesome.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, thanks again, Uzi, for this next segment in the video. For those of you that are watching this is basically a whole series. So make sure you watch the other videos as well, where we cover other topics. I'm trying to do these little bite-sized, so because who wants to watch an hour-long video, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, cool, awesome. So thanks again, Uzi.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, everyone. Bye.